They weren't just cab drivers, they were the pulse of 1970s America. When Taxi premiered in 1978, television didn't know what hit it. It was supposed to be a sitcom, but what it delivered was something hauntingly human. The show captured the everyday grind of people stuck between dreams and reality, taxi drivers, dispatchers, and misfits trying to survive in a city that never cared. Each episode balanced humor with heartbreak, turning New York's chaotic taxi garage into a stage for life itself. At the center of it all was Judd Hirsch as Alex Rieger, the quiet soul of the show. He wasn't a hero, he wasn't rich or famous, he was just human. A man who'd seen enough to laugh at life's unfairness, but still cared enough to keep going. Hirsch played Alex with such understated brilliance that viewers saw themselves in him, overworked, underpaid, and still clinging to dignity. By the early 1980s, Judd Hirsch had become a household name, but fame never changed him. He carried the weight of his character long after Taxi ended. His voice, that calm but heavy tone, became a symbol of working-class resilience. And while most actors fade with time, Hirsch defied the clock. Decades later, he returned to the big screen in The Fabelmans, stealing scenes from actors half his age. Now in 2025, Judd Hirsch is more than a nostalgic memory. He's a living bridge between television's golden age and the storytelling we crave today. His presence reminds us that you don't need explosions or special effects to move people, just truth. And maybe that's the real legacy of Taxi, a show that didn't drive people home, but drove them deeper into themselves. If Judd Hirsch was the soul of Taxi and DeVito, its fire, Andy Kaufman was its mystery. He wasn't an actor pretending to be strange. He was strange in a way that both fascinated and terrified people. As Latka Gravis, Kaufman spoke in an indecipherable accent, invented his own language, and made millions laugh without ever telling a normal joke. But behind that harmless smile was one of the most unpredictable minds television had ever seen. Kaufman never wanted to be a comedian in the traditional sense. He called himself a song and dance man. To him, comedy wasn't about punchlines, it was about confusion. He loved watching people question whether what they were seeing was real or not. Taxi gave him national fame, but fame was the one thing he never wanted. The producers often struggled to control him. He would refuse to perform lines, demand his alter ego Tony Clifton be treated as a separate person, and blur every line between reality and performance. But here's the haunting truth. Andy Kaufman was years ahead of his time. Long before YouTube pranks or reality TV, he was playing with human psychology, exposing how easily we believe what entertains us. In an era obsessed with fitting in, he lived to stand apart. Then, at just 35, Andy Kaufman died of lung cancer in 1984, or so the world was told. For decades, fans have whispered that he faked his death, that his greatest act was never ending the show. Even now, in 2025, conspiracy forums still light up on his birthday, claiming sightings, hoping the joke isn't over. Whether alive or gone, Andy Kaufman left a message few comedians ever dare to write. You don't have to make sense to make history. If Taxi was the heartbeat of 1970s America, then Louis De Palma was its chaos, loud, mean, and unforgettable. Behind that glass window in the garage, Louis barked orders like a man who'd given up on kindness. But what audiences didn't expect was that this grumpy dispatcher, played by Danny DeVito, would become one of Hollywood's most powerful forces. Back then, DeVito was short, bald, and far from a conventional TV star. But that's exactly what made him iconic. He played Louis with a fury so raw that you couldn't hate him, you pitied him. Beneath his insults and temper was a man terrified of being ignored. Viewers saw through the sarcasm and recognized their own insecurities reflected in his outbursts. That was DeVito's magic. He made cruelty feel human. Taxi launched DeVito into superstardom. By the mid-80s, he was directing films like Throw Mama from the Train and starring in classics like Romancing the Stone and Batman Returns. He became proof that talent has nothing to do with height, looks, or charm. It's all about presence. And no one, not even the tallest men in the room, could outshine Danny DeVito's presence. Fast forward to 2025, and DeVito remains one of Hollywood's most beloved icons. From his cult legacy in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia to voicing animated legends, his career spans nearly 5 decades. Yet through all the fame, he never lost that mischievous spark, that feeling he could still walk back into that taxi garage and take charge again. Louis De Palma started as a character people loved to hate, but Danny DeVito turned him into something greater, a reminder that sometimes the most flawed voices end up shaping the loudest legacies. Before he became the time-traveling scientist everyone knows as Doc Brown, Christopher Lloyd was already practicing chaos inside the taxi garage. As Reverend Jim Ignatowski, the burnt-out ex-hippie turned cab driver, Lloyd delivered one of television's strangest and most brilliant performances. He wasn't just playing a spaced-out character, he was embodying an entire generation that had lost its way after the 60s. Jim was funny, yes, but there was a sadness behind every laugh. You could see it in the way he paused mid-sentence, his mind drifting somewhere between genius and madness. In one of the show's most famous scenes, Jim tries to pass his driving test and asks, "What does a yellow light mean?" When the others shout, "Slow down," he obediently slows his speech instead. That moment, absurd and perfect, became the symbol of Taxi's humor, smart, layered, and painfully human. Christopher Lloyd's ability to make eccentricity feel profound earned him 2 Emmys. But Taxi was only the beginning. Just a few years later, he stepped into cinematic immortality with Back to the Future. The energy he brought as Reverend Jim exploded on the big screen. Wild eyes, electric hair, a mind that never stopped buzzing. He turned madness into magic. Decades later, Lloyd still works, appearing in indie films, animation, and nostalgic reunions. In 2025, his silver hair and kind smile carry the weight of decades spent chasing wonder. He's living proof that eccentricity doesn't fade, it evolves. Reverend Jim may have been the comic relief, but Christopher Lloyd turned him into something more, a reflection of that fragile thread between brilliance and burnout. In every great Scott that echoes through pop culture, you can still hear the faint echo of that cab garage laugh track, reminding us that genius often starts where reason ends. In a garage full of broken dreams and loud personalities, Marilu Henner was the heartbeat that held it all together. As Elaine Nardo, the single mother working 2 jobs and still daring to hope, she brought warmth to Taxi's gritty realism. While others made us laugh, she made us care. Elaine wasn't perfect, but that was the point. She was every woman trying to survive in a world that treated dreams like luxuries. Henner's performance was subtle but unforgettable. She gave Taxi its emotional balance, beauty without vanity, kindness without weakness. Her chemistry with Judd Hirsch made audiences root for something simple, 2 tired people trying to believe in each other again. And unlike many sitcom characters of that era, Elaine wasn't a sidekick or a prop. She had depth, ambition, and heart, a woman defined by her strength, not her looks. But Marilu Henner's story off-screen is even more fascinating. She possesses one of the rarest abilities in the world, highly superior autobiographical memory, HSAM, meaning she can recall every day of her life in vivid detail. Ask her what she was doing on June 4th, 1982, and she'll tell you the weather, the outfit, even the scent in the air. It's a condition so rare that scientists studied her brain to understand how memory truly works. In 2025, Henner remains radiant, splitting her time between acting, writing, and motivational speaking. She's turned her gift and her challenges into a message about gratitude and awareness. While Hollywood often forgets its past, she remembers every frame of it. Elaine Nardo's struggle for dignity mirrored Marilu's real-life journey, both women proving that strength isn't loud, it's steady. And long after Taxi's lights dimmed, she remains the show's quietest, yet most lasting light. Before he became one of television's most recognizable faces, Tony Danza was literally fighting his way through life, a professional boxer with 10 knockout wins and a broken nose to prove it. Then, almost by accident, Hollywood called Taxi cast him as Tony Danza, a sweet but slightly dim-witted cab driver chasing his dream of becoming a boxing champion. It was supposed to be small, lighthearted, but Danza turned it into something bigger, the story of a man who never stopped swinging, even when life hit harder. Unlike many actors who played everymen, Tony Danza was one. His charm wasn't rehearsed, it was natural, rough around the edges, and deeply human. He brought sincerity to comedy, turning punchlines into lessons about resilience. Audiences didn't just laugh at Tony Danza, they rooted for him. He was the cabbie who refused to give up, even when the world told him to quit. When Taxi ended, most expected Danza to fade like many TV stars of that era. Instead, he reinvented himself, leading the hit show Who's the Boss, becoming a beloved daytime host, and even returning to the classroom years later to teach high school English in Philadelphia. That's who Tony Danza really is, not just an actor, but a man obsessed with growth, with staying grounded no matter how high the fame climbs. In 2025, Danza still radiates that same warmth. He performs, mentors, sings with a jazz band, and lives by the same blue-collar authenticity that once made Tony Danza so loved. His journey from the boxing ring to the sitcom stage is proof that success doesn't always come from talent alone. Sometimes it comes from the refusal to stop showing up. And maybe that's the true legacy of Taxi, a story about ordinary people, drivers, dreamers, and dispatchers who turn the grind of survival into the poetry of living. The cabs may have stopped running, but the ride never really ended.